Hello, this is Ahmed Abu Zarek, a PhD student from the Meta Creation Lab at Simon Fraser University in Canada, presenting a work in collaboration with Philippe Pascal. When looking into the practices of artists who work with AI, especially before the rise of large scale generative models, we find that they engage with generative models and data as materials for creation, and this is established through multiple reports. The rise of large scale generative models shifted that relationship from one where artists have control over these materials to one where AI models are treated as black boxed and replaceable commodities. The lack of explainability in these large models further reinforces that view. And this is all happening at a time when we need to be even more critical of AI models as opposed to black boxing them. Some ideas that surfaced around these issues are small data and model crafting. Small data is a mindset that suggests that training or fine tuning models on small datasets may create a more intimate approach for artists to work with AI. Model crafting suggests that training, adapting, and manipulating models is a craft similar to traditional crafts. We claim that both of these approaches can change the kind of relationship artists have with AI and reclaim it as a material. This is important because that kind of relationship can enhance artists' agency, sense of authorship, and creative control. Also relevant for the subject of this workshop, we believe it can also improve the explainability of AI models through direct and sustained engagement. In particular, we suggest that when model crafting is supported through transparent and manipulable components of the generative process, it can help artists develop a tacit understanding and familiarity with AI materials. We achieve that by implementing model binding into the interface of ComfyUI. ComfyUI is a node-based, low-code interface that allows artists to create and execute advanced diffusion generative processes. The elements of the generative process are all exposed through modular components, including encoding and decoding images with variational autoencoders, encoding prompts through the clip model, and sampling through the diffusion denoising process. This is opposed to interfaces like Automatic 1111 that expose the parameters but do not give artists visibility or control over the generative process. The second part of our approach is model bending, first introduced by Broad et al. For style GAN models, and it is a technique for manipulating the inner representations of a model to push it towards creative outputs. It works by inserting a module into the generative model to transform the intermediate results before passing them downstreams. Now, when attempting to apply this to large-scale diffusion models, we found that there are many more bars and layers to be bent. We aim to support bending for most parts of the diffusion process, but I'll focus here on bending the unit model, which is responsible for the denoising process. The part in gold here is the default workflow in Comfy, where we load a model, encode prompts, and then sample. What we do is that we pass the model to the model bending node, and then we select the operation that we want to apply as well as the path to the layer that we want to bend. More on how we select this path later on. These are some early results showing the specificity of the system with the same prompts but using different models and bending operations. You can see that the results vary from creating variations on an image to more experimental and abstract results. More relevant for this workshop is the model inspector, which visualizes the model structure as a nested and expandable tree. Users can interactively pick the layers from this model inspector that they want to bend through the model bending node. The idea being is that by bending different parts of the model, artists can develop intuition about how each component in that model, each layer of that model influences the output. We conducted a systematic study to illustrate the kind of insights that may result from sustained engagement through model bending. The early results shown here indicate that bending early convolutional blocks tend to create variations in the overall shape, while bending later convolutional blocks results mostly in stylistic changes. In conclusion, large-scale generative models are treated as black box commodities, and treating them as materials open the black box and allows artists to engage critically with them. Model crafting over transparent and manipulable components of the generative process can reclaim that materiality, and we also showed that model building of diffusion models inside the node-based interface of ComfyUI is one way to achieve that. You can access the plugin at this link, and thank you for listening.